Do you have a script?
I have a script. Oh. Yeah.
So whenever you're ready.
Let's see, I have to fill in. Chair. My name is Val Little, and I'm calling this meeting of the Tucson AMA Groundwater Users Advisory Council to order. Today is September 23rd, and the time is 9:01. This meeting is being held in person. Would members please introduce themselves?
Doug Greenland, General Manager of Cortero Moran Irrigation District.
Tim Tomier, Assistant City Manager, City of Tucson.
Pat Jacobs, Central Arizona Project and Arizona Water Protection Fund.
We have a forum. ADWR and staff introductions. Okay, start. I got a lot of ADWR. More ADWR folks than other people. Go ahead, start.
All right, my name is Natalie Mest. I'm the Active Management Area Director responsible for the management plans.
John Reagan, Statewide Planning Manager.
Melissa Sykes, Water Assistant Coordinator. Betty Shepard, GUAC Coordinator. We can't hear. Okay, so
Virginia state folks count, and I think there's some state folks in the back too.
Virginia O'Connell, Water Banking Authority. Rebecca Bernard, Water Banking Authority.
Sure. Thomas Silver, Arizona Project West.
Josh Rodick, Arizona Project.
Shannon Mary, covering the project specialist.
Paula Randolph, Data Center for Land and Water Quality.
Morning, I'm Mark Holden, Principal Planner with Pima County Planning Division, Development Services Department.
And I'm Wally Wilson. I'm the Water Resource Manager here at Metro Water District.
Hey, we got everybody introduced. Okay, let's see, what do I do now? Agenda item 2, meeting logistics. Kennedy, take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is our first ever hybrid GUAC meeting. So there's just a few meeting logistics I'd like to go over, mostly for everyone who's joining us online. We do ask that you please keep your phone muted during the meeting. This helps with audio feedback. If you have any questions or comments throughout the meeting, please feel free to put those in the chat box. We will read and address those during the call to public. Also, for everyone online and here with us, if you would like to address the council, the call to public will be your time to do so. This meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to our website here within the next few business days. And if you are having any technical difficulties for those joining us online, our help desk is available for you and their number is on the screen. Thank you. That's all I have.
Kennedy, how many people do we have online at the moment?
We have, excluding the 2 that I count as, we have about 10 people joining us.
Okay, all right. We're moving on to item number 3, Colorado River update.
Hello, thank you and good morning, council members. I'm Rachel Von Nexon and I'll be giving the Colorado River Basin status update today. Can everyone hear me? Just a quick check.
Great, Rachel.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to start with a brief review of the Colorado River system status. These numbers reflect levels as of September 18th. For the smaller upper basin reservoirs, beginning at the upper right and moving down, we have Fontanelle at 85%, Flaming Gorge at 74%, Blue Mesa at 37%, followed by Morro Point at 100%, and finally Navajo at 53%. As of the 18th, Lake Powell was at an elevation of 3529.45 feet and 25% of capacity. Lake Mead was at an elevation of 1044.41 feet and 28% of capacity. Looking at the reservoir system as a whole, we currently have roughly 19.648 million acre feet in storage, or 34% of capacity. This is approximately a 3.6 million acre foot decrease from this time last year. Next, please. This is the historic and forecasted water year unregulated inflow into Lake Powell. The lighter blue bars show the historic water year unregulated inflow. The 30-year average from 1991 to 2020 is 19.60 million acre feet. That's that black line running across the screen. According to Reclamation's latest Lower Colorado Water Supply Report, as of September 16th, water year 2022 is forecasted to be at 6.039 million acre feet, or 63% of average. The box in the upper left-hand side of the graph shows Reclamation's September volumes for the minimum in red, the most in green, and the max dark blue for water year 2023. The minimum probable is forecasted at 4.70 million acre feet. This is 49% of that 30-year average. The most probable forecast is 8.30 million acre feet, 86% of that 30-year average. And the maximum probable forecast is 15.50 million acre feet, or 161% of that 30-year average. Although there's a possibility of seeing improved flows, based on what we've seen over the last few years, it's unlikely, and it's more likely we'll see conditions that track with the min and most going forward. So I encourage you to draw your focus towards those forecasts. Next slide, please. This is the Lake Powell end of month elevations from Reclamation's most recent 24-month study and 2-year probabilistic projections. The probable max is in blue, most probable in green, and probable min in red. The individual gray lines are those additional traces from the CRIMS ESP projections and help provide additional information about risk and uncertainty. So this modeling does reflect the May actions taken by the Department of the Interior, that is to send 500,000 acre feet from Flaming Gorge Reservoir down to Lake Powell and keep 480,000 acre feet in Lake Powell that would have been delivered to Lake Mead. These projections are actual elevations and do not reflect effective projections. As we go forward in time, we see increasing hydrologic uncertainty, and some of those drier traces approach and even fall below critical elevations at Powell. Next, please. So this is now Lake Mead for those end of month projections from the September 24-month study and 2-year probabilistic projections. When looking at this figure, I encourage you to focus your attention on that lower half of the cloud, as many of the ESP traces and the 24 most and minimum fall towards this range. The end of calendar year 2022 most probable elevation is 1043.14 feet. The end of calendar year 2023 most probable elevation is 1023.90 feet. Again, the projected elevations shown on this graph are the physical elevations. The end of calendar year 2022 most probable effective elevation is 1047.61 feet. The effective elevation is determined as if that 480,000 acre feet held back in Lake Powell had actually been delivered to Lake Mead. Thus, the effective elevation in Lake Mead is higher than the physical elevation. Next slide, please. So this is what has been modeled for the 500 plus plan in that September 24-month study. Much of this is carryover from previous months, with notable adjustments being MWD's 2022 ICS deliveries being closer to what was projected in the June 2021 model. Its anticipated deliveries for 2023 are expected to increase, as are CAPs, though not as dramatically. Additional conservation activities incorporated it into the August model that you're again seeing carried through here are those CWCD system conservation and the Yuma Mesa Irrigation District fallowing programs. Those are the most recent additions. Those were added back in August. On September 1, though, the CAP board approved an additional 59,003 acre feet of system conservation with 5 subcontractors. These volumes, though, are not included in the modeling yet. Next, please. So given that that projected effective elevation for 2022 end of calendar year of Mead was 1047.61 feet, the Commissioner of the Bureau of Reclamation announced that Lake Mead will operate in a Tier 2A shortage condition in 2023 on August 16th. For Arizona, this looks like a 592,000 acre foot reduction, approximately 21% of our annual apportionment. Nevada will have a 25,000 acre foot reduction. Mexico will have 104,000 acre foot reduction. And under a tier 2A, California has no required water savings contributions. Next slide, please. These are the reductions and contributions associated with the 2007 interim guidelines, Minute 323, the Lower Basin Drought Contingency Plan, and the Binational Water Scarcity Contingency Plan. You may have heard some more terminology pop up recently, specifically some of those more distinctions made between a 2A, B, C, D, and E. So the difference there is that if you look closely, California and Mexico take incremental reductions between a tier 2B and a tier 3. In a tier 2B, California's DCP reduction is 200,000 acre feet, 250,000 in a tier 2C, 300,000 in tier 2D, and 350,000 in a tier 2E. In addition to California, Mexico takes additional incremental reductions through these tiers as well. But Arizona's reductions remain the same between these tiers. Slide, please. In June, we heard from the commissioner that an additional 2 to 4 million acre feet of conservation was needed to protect the system. Media coverage leading up to the August 24-month study was anticipating an announcement by Reclamation. However, there was no announcement of either additional mandatory cuts or an agreement by the basin states to come up with additional conserved volumes. Despite the basin states not meeting this mid-August deadline set by the commissioner, the basin states will continue to meet with the U.S. to address challenges on the Colorado River and are discussing ways that additional reductions can be implemented. As been said before, all water users have a stake in the outcome and all need to contribute to the solution. This is the 5-year probabilistic projections of future conditions on the Colorado River system, which extend through 2027. For modeling purposes, simulated years beyond 2026 assume a continuation of the 2007 interim guidelines, the 2019 Colorado River Basin Drought Contingency Plans, Minute 323, and the Binational Water Scarcity Contingency Plan. The table here shows the percent of traces from those CRIMS ESP runs that would result in an event or system condition. Going through the chances of different tiers in the next 5 years, we're seeing in 2024 through 2027, we see over 70% of those traces falling in a tier 2 or tier 3 operating condition, and 40% or more of the traces at a tier 3 operating condition. And that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I can take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions from the members? Good. Well, some of this stuff isn't reviewed. Getting pretty used to these kind of numbers. Any questions or comments from the audience? Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
We're moving on to item number 4, presentation of the Arizona Water Bank preliminary plan of operation for 2023. Becca?
Good morning, Chairwoman Little. Good morning, members of the council. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Rebecca Burnett. I'm Technical Administrator of the Water Bank. And today I'm going to present the preliminary plan of operation for the year 2023. This plan has 2 components. You can see the slide, please. Thanks. 2 components to the plan. So the first one is how many credits the water bank can develop. The second one is how many credits the water bank may need to distribute to meet our objectives. Next, please. So next year, there will be no excess CAP water available to the water bank for storage, but we have other options for credit development. We could purchase long-term storage credits. We can also pay for the development of intentionally created surplus firming credits, which we also call ICS firming credits. And we would develop those credits through our agreement, our 2019 agreement with the Gila River Indian community that we refer to as the community. Next, please. So here's a table of the water bank funds available by funding source to develop credits. So I'll start with the withdrawal fees. The water bank has $1.8 million of withdrawal fee revenues collected in the Phoenix AMA and $978,000 of withdrawal fee revenues collected in the Tucson AMA. These are funds available to the water bank. In past years, we were required to transfer 1.2 million to make available those 1.2 million to ADWR. That is no longer the case, so those 1.2 million are reflected here on the slides. What you don't see on the slide, however, are $200,000 that we are required to transfer to ANZAC, the Arizona Navigable Stream Adjudication Commission. Another note, in the Tucson AMA, what you see is carryover. Typically, we get a little under $400,000 there. So with revenues in the Tucson AMA, we intend to develop 6,134 ICS firming credits. Those developed credits that you see here on the slide include the 10% loss factor, and the price for those ICS next year will be $268.8 per acre-foot. In the Tucson AMA, we could purchase about 3,000 long-term storage credits using withdrawal fees. Now, moving on to the water storage tax. The water bank has carryover from funds reserved by CWCD for long-term storage credit purchases in 2021 and 2022. We have $3.3 million of water storage tax revenues in the Phoenix AMA that we could use to purchase almost 11,000 long-term storage credits. In the Tucson AMA, we have $7.8 million that we could use to purchase almost 25,000 long-term storage credits. Long-term storage credit purchases, purchase volumes are based on CEP water delivery and storage prices for 2023 under a Tier 2A shortage. And so the rate will be $312 in the Phoenix AMA and $314 in the Tucson AMA per acre. And I'd like to stress the fact that the market for long-term storage credits is tightening. So in the future, the water bank might not be able to purchase long-term storage credits. So with this plan, we could be spending a little less than $14 million to develop almost 45 credits. Next. So next year, you all know, we'll be in a Tier 2A shortage, which means that the reductions will affect CEP and IA priority supplies. As a result, the water bank has an obligation to firm the community, will firm 15,000 acre-feet. There will be no firming for on-river contractors, no firming for CEP M&I subcontractors. This is because the latest CEP estimates show that the M&I pool will not be affected by shortages. The final accounting of CEP water orders shows there's a small reduction in M&I supplies that the water bank staff can coordinate with CWCD to ensure water orders are met, potentially through CAGRD exchange. And of course, we will incorporate those changes to our annual plan of operation. And finally, the Southern Nevada Water Authority hasn't sent a request for intentionally created and used apportionment, which means there will be no interstate recovery next year. So here's the table summarizing water bank credits by objective. So the only requirement we have next year is firming for the community. So I've highlighted the volumes on the slide. So in the second column, you can see how many credits will be available to the bank at the end of this year. So they need to be used in 2023. And so in the third column, you see that we are planning to use 15,000 firming credits. Those are credits developed on reservation to firm the community. And in the third column, you can see how many credits will be remaining in the water bank accounts at the end of 2023. As I said, there will be no CAP M&I firming, no on-river M&I firming either, and no interstate recovery. Next, please. Yes, and I'd like to add that we'll be releasing the final annual plan of operation in November, and we welcome comments from the public.
Comments and questions? Yes, Pat.
From a different perspective, if you go back one slide, the community, that's not their standard allocation, and that's NIA water. Is that correct?
So we firm NIA, yes, on the NIA water.
As if it was Indian, even though Phoenix is using many others. If it's not going directly to the tribe, or the tribe is somehow has an exchange.
So if, well, it's true that some tribes that have NIA water or that have settlements that haven't been enforced or are planning to leasing some water to cities. In terms of the community, as far as I know, it's water developed on reservation.
Yeah. So this was the community's water that was delivered on reservation, and the water bank paid the cost for that water. In return, we received a credit for having paid for the water delivery. So we're basically just deducting from the amount of credits that we have. So I'm not sure what you meant by an exchange.
It's just my understanding that there are NIA water that is not used for tribes. And sometimes the tribes can, how do I say, sell credits. I don't know if it's NIA water or the standard allocation or both.
No, it's,
Yeah, these aren't long-term storage credits. It is true that the community, they have long-term storage credits that they accumulate through the SRP. They have a partnership with SRP, the groundwater water storage. Yes, gross. And so they do have long-term storage credits that they can sell if they want to. But these are firming credits, so they're not long-term storage credits. Yeah, we deal with we call them like credits in general, and so we have long-term storage credits, and then we have firming credits, and some of those firming credits are also ICS firming credits. So,
That clarifies it.
okay.
None of my questions are just not say that the community has been a very good citizen and been the backbone of a lot of our savings past years. It just was, I didn't quite understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Questions from the audience?
Well, we have some.
Sorry.
in the chat.
Sorry.
No worries.
Oh, yeah, we got those.
Judy has a question. Am I understanding this water credit system is buying gallons of water from the Colorado system or other communities' credits to supply Tucson? Doesn't that mean Tucson/Arizona is defining a limited water resource and then shorting someone somewhere else?
Right? Okay, that's a little broad question, but I'll attempt to, answer it. And so the credits that the water bank has, so those credits were generated through storage of excess Colorado River. So from 1996 to, when's the last time we stored? 2018, there was excess water available to Arizona that the state of Arizona wasn't putting into use. So to ensure that Arizona wouldn't lose part of its allocation on the Colorado River, the water bank was there to store this excess supply of water. And we are storing water. We have a requirement to store this water because we have obligations towards Indian tribes. We have obligations towards M&I users, whether it's some are on rivers, some are in the central part of the state. So Tucson, in the Tucson, the Pinal, and the Phoenix AMAs. And some of those credits, like we can see on the slide, some are reserved for the Phoenix AMA, some are reserved for the Pinal AMA, others for the Tucson AMA. So it depends on which tax, who's contributed for pumping the water. Those we get different fees that we use for different objectives. So yes, it is water that has been stored to the ground, and we have this water for many different users in Arizona. I think I covered the question. Are there other aspects?
I believe so, that there is a follow-up here that Judy
Okay.
put. I think the first two kind of tie together. How is the state going to tackle the long-term issues of a water source? Otherwise, we are purchasing credits from a dwindling source. How does this limitation on the macro scale come into the individual to save and conserve?
Well, it is true that the credits that we have, this is a finite supply. So the amount of water that we firm when a shortage is declared and when subcontractors are affected depends on their water orders. So of course, if they conserve more water, it's all based on their water orders. So I would say that the better they conserve, the less firming they will be from the water bank. Now, I'd like to add that we have a policy for firming that is until 2026. And there are conversations right now about what the future of the water bank will be in the future. Right now, I cannot totally answer the question as to what the role of the water bank will be post 2026.
Can I add one little thing to that with regard to acquiring additional credits? Those would only be credits, those would be credits available that others have stored that they are looking to sell, and those would be the ones that water bank would purchase. So as Rebecca mentioned earlier, that market is tightening. The cost of credits is increasing, and the amount of credits being accrued are decreasing. So there may not be a lot of credits for the water bank to purchase going forward.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add, the reason the credits were created for the excess money, excess water, was because if we didn't use it, California would use it. At that point in time, the rules were, go to the next priority user. So that all this water that we stored, that we're now using, would be in California.
Judy, okay with all those answers?
I believe so.
Okay.
There's no other comments by Judy at this time.
Okay. Anybody else online have comments or questions?
Judy said very helpful.
Good, good. Thank you, Rebecca, very much. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5, the groundwater withdrawal fee recommendation and WMAP.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, council members and members of the public. I'll be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance as the status of the PCP groundwater conservation grants. The current balance is $71,276. Of that, $22,050 is committed, leaving a balance of $49,226. We expect to collect about $68,000 annually with the new 50-cent rate. Arizona Project WET is seeking to renew their contract for $45,000, which is an increase from $44,100 that they typically ask for a term of 1 year. This would leave $4,226 in unobligated funds.
Again, say it again.
It would leave $4,226 in unobligated funds.
4,000.
But we expect to collect $68,000 next year. Arizona Project WET is the only project currently being funded with the W outlines in the Tucson AMA. We also have with us today representatives from the Babbitt Center who will be requesting funding of $6,940 for a term of 1 year. So next I'll give an update on the groundwater conservation grants. Currently, all projects are ongoing and there aren't any updates to any specific contract. Next, I would like to introduce our WMAP dashboard that will be available on our website. Soon here. Okay, so this dashboard consists of 5 tabs. The first goes over the WMAP annual funding. Here you will find information regarding the unobligated fund balance, the WMAP fee by year, and the total WMAP fees collected. If you want to see information regarding a single AMA, just select it here. You'll be able to see all that specific information. On the next tab, we have solely for WMAP projects. When you select the program from this list, you'll be shown all the information regarding that contract in this area here below. And our next tab is only for groundwater conservation grant projects. It has a similar format. You just click on a project, you get all the information regarding that project. The remaining tabs are for notes and a glossary of uncommon terms. Before we move on to the presentations, Kyle Miller will start the withdrawal fee discussions. But before that, are there any questions regarding the WMAP funds and the or the projects?
Tim?
Can you remind us where we can find that dashboard? Is that live running now?
The dashboard isn't live yet, but it will be soon, and I'll send out a notification when it is live.
Okay.
Can we go back to the first slide just so I can?
You're looking at me?
You the one I speak to, I don't tell them a thing.
The withdrawal fee sheet.
So
Is
the
that what you'd like
first,
to
where
see?
you had the fees.
Yeah, okay. Yes. This one?
I misspoke when I said there were a remaining balance of $4,226. I apologize. It's $49,226.
I wasn't saying.
Typo in the script.
Thank you.
Okay, Kyle, with us?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. I'll just also share that Mr. Block has joined the meeting virtually. He's called in, so he will be able to participate in this discussion.
Morning, Mike.
Withdrawal fees for 2022 are set at $3.50 per acre foot, which is an increase of 25 cents per acre foot from 2021. Of that, 50 cents per acre foot goes towards the Water Management Assistance Program, and 50 cents goes towards administration and enforcement, in addition to the $2.50 that's set aside for the water bank. Today, GUAC members are asked to make a recommendation to the director regarding the rate of withdrawal fees for reporting year 2023, which will be collected in calendar year 2024. And this table here is a reference for you, provides withdrawal fee rates and money collected from the past 5 years. And the highlighted sections under 2023 at the far right are the withdrawal fee statutory framework. So the component of the fee that goes towards the WMAP, and that's money that's set aside for conservation, augmentation, and research of water availability in the AMA, cannot exceed $2 per acre foot. The admin and enforcement component needs to be between 50 cents and $1 per acre foot. So before asking members to recommend a withdrawal fee rate for reporting year 2023, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions for Kyle?
Madam Chair, so Kyle, what we heard was the current fee for 2022 would bring in 68,000, is that what I heard?
It'll bring in around that number, yeah. We don't have an exact number, obviously, but the WMAP fee is doubled from 2021, and there was 34,000 in 2021.
Okay, hearing no more questions. You have more, Kyle?
Nope, I'm all ready. I just need a recommendation from the council.
Discussion from council members? Motions? Tim?
Just for discussion for now, past several years, the GUAC has recommended increases to the WMAP fee that have gotten overruled in Phoenix. But at least we got some movement last year. So, interested in increasing it to where it should be over time, as slow as they will allow us to do it. Or as fast as they were allowed.
Is that a motion for a dollar?
But we haven't
Oh,
met in a while, so.
right, well, Pat, what do you think?
I guess I agree with Tim. I do $3.50.
Well, I don't think we can do that. I think that
But that
50
was-
cents is all we can do. That's the most we can do. Our little hands are tied.
For the WMAP, go to $2.
Yeah, the max for the WMAP is $2 per acre foot.
Well, if 350 is the total
Sure.
and 250 is going to the water bank, that leaves $1, according to my math, to divvy up between administration and WMAP.
I think it could be 550 total, right, if I'm reading that in the green correctly.
Oh, well, okay.
Now, having said that, I would tell you that those of us who pay the groundwater fee are in sticker shock at this point, so.
Yeah.
Kyle, could you correct me if I'm incorrect here? I think the maximum withdrawal fee is $5.
It is for one of the AMAs, at least. I'm not sure of the Tucson AMA. I don't think the Tucson AMA has that $5.
Different amounts.
Hearing all that, tells me I will make a motion.
Okay,
Move that we increase the WMAP fee from 50 cents to $1. We hold the admin and enforcement fee at 50 cents and everything else stay the same. So a net and total complete increase of 50 cents, all in the WMAP, that takes the total to $4.
do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion?
As I mentioned, having, being the one in the room who pays those fees, that's a hefty increase for our business.
If we were to take a vote, you would probably vote against that
I
big an
would,
increase all at
yes,
once.
yes.
Well, do I hear,
Well, I mean, for me, I'm looking at it, I'm going, I haven't paid, so we won't pay the 350 fee until March, April, when it's due. So I haven't even got used to the 350. I'm still working on the 325. So that's why I say I'm in sticker shock at this point, but.
what about 75 cents and see what happens, because Tom is gonna have the final say up there anyway. I think 75 cents would be more palatable.
No, not particularly, but Mr. Mayor makes a good comment in that, whatever we put forward in the past hasn't held a lot of water.
Right.
I didn't go to the shootout. I was trying to find a middle ground.
Well, let's keep talking until we get middle ground and everything. Mike, do you have any comments? Not hearing anything.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. I'm willing to amend the motion if Tim is so inclined to reduce it to what it was from $1 to 75 cents for the water.
Yeah. Did we lose you or are you looking?
Just looking. Sorry. Go ahead.
That substitute.
What he said he was amending your motion. Not sure if that's the same thing as a
If
substitute.
if Tim's supportive of it.
Whatever the mechanism is by which my motion could be 75 cents, I would not object to that. But I don't know that I can do that.
You don't know that you can?
Somebody has to make a substitute motion for 70 cents.
Pat?
You tell me, I don't know. I must have been, do you care?
If it's not in the script, we're just flying blind. Okay?
Yeah.
We're talking about the top line, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll move for a substitute motion to increase it to 75 cents.
And what about the administrative fee? Keep it at 50 cents?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
But if it did nothing, it would stay the same, but that's all right.
Fine with that.
And you could vote against it.
I mean, like, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
So, which I'm fine with. I mean, you know, and the fact of the matter is I voted for the last two increases.
Yes, sir.
I did misunderstand your proposal apparently because you're not proposing $1 increase, you're proposing to take it to $1.
That's correct. I was trying to not take it,
Got it.
but
Yeah.
I'm equally happy with the 20. I was proposing a 50-cent increase. I'm equally happy with a 25-cent increase. I think we need to send a message that
Right.
we need to keep doing.
Yeah, so I understand. Okay.
And that's also why I was supporting the amended motion. It might go through the department easier that way too.
I withdraw my motion in favor of passing.
Okay. Pat's got a motion and somebody needs to second it.
I'll second.
Mike seconds it. Any more discussion? Okay, would staff read back our motion? What we decided?
As I understand the motion, you are looking to increase the WMAP fee to 75 cents per acre foot, leave the administration and enforcement fee 50 cents per acre foot. So you would have a total increase of 25 cents per acre foot to $3.75 for 2023. Is that right?
Sorry, I was just gonna add to that a point of clarification. Kyle was able to confirm that the $5 cap does not apply for the Tucson AMA. So you would just be limited by the individual line items, which you were correct. That's out to $5.50.
Okay.
But in this case, we're looking at 370.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yes.
I thought this was in 2024, not, is that, or now is it 2023?
It's for annual reporting year 2023, which will be collected in calendar year 2024.
Collected in 2024.
Correct. Yeah.
After.
Assessed in 23, collected in 24. Thank you very much.
Okay, like, do we need a roll call vote or do we just?
We can do a roll call. Yeah, I can call names if you like.
Okay.
All right. Val Little?
Yeah.
Michael Block?
Yes.
Doug Greenland?
No.
Pat Jacobs? I'm sorry, I didn't hear Pat Jacobs.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And Tim Tamir.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-1.
Okay. We'll see what happens when it's the big time. Okay, moving on. Who's in charge of this next segment? It is me? Do I have to go, where's my screen? So, item number 6 is WMAP project update for Arizona Project Wet. Holly, our computer share. Thanks, you guys, you water bank people.
Thank you, thank you. It is good to be here as well in person. So good. The year has passed. Josh Reddick is also here. He is, since we have all met last, Josh Reddick is our new Tucson/Southern Arizona program coordinator. And so you'll probably see him again next time and not me, maybe. All right, could go on. So just to remind you all, what we agreed to do last year in the midst of kind of transitioning out of the pandemic was some teacher professional development, a variety of different direct student outreach and the Arizona Water Festivals and loaning out equipment. Equipment still didn't get loaned out this year. Teachers weren't quite, that's another thing, right? We all know how teachers are under pressure. So we didn't have much equipment interest last year, but go ahead and go on again. We'll talk about this. So we did, again, the online ROV Academy, which is run in collaboration with 4-H. They do something called University. And so it's kind of a fun way to do it in that 4-H leaders and parents and students all work together to build underwater robots. And then they are able to compete in the annual regional mate competition. And this year, that competition was in May. We had 15 teams registered. About half of them came from 4-H and half of them from schools where teachers who had taken the professional development in the past guided students through the project. And if you've ever watched somebody man or drive and fly, that's what we're supposed to say, fly an ROV underwater to pick up something or inspect a dam or any of those things, it's a challenging task. And so we introduced kids to that, and it was a good time. Good time was had by all. And starting to build that connection to using drones and remotely operated vehicles for water systems throughout our state. So it was a fun time. Oh, there's the scene teams. We had 3 schools and then a bunch of 4-H sibling teams. So that was fun. This was our winning team, that picture of that girl there. Here's what it looks like in the water. Lots of fun, lots of challenge, lots of frustration. Oh, your screen must be a different shape. It's different size, but here's the water scene investigation. This is when we're actually able to save some water, projecting 1.56 million gallons per year of water conserved by students changing out aerators on their faucets at home. So we start with, let's see, this was born out of the idea that students nowadays, when we say, how do you save water? They say, take shorter showers, turn the water off when you brush your teeth, do all those things that we here in Southern Arizona know how to do. And so we wanted to talk about technology being the thing that saves water. Another thing that helps us save water. And so we look at a bunch of different technologies, dual flush toilet adapters and aerators and drip system pieces and water meters, and talk about how they can help us save water. And then give each kid an aerator that they take home and measure flow and do math and figure out how much water their family can save by switching out that 2.2 gallon per minute aerator for a 1. And then our ongoing direct student outreach at Sweetwater Wetlands, which is most of you all are all familiar with the Water Festival program. So those 4 lessons about the water cycle, watershed, water conservation technology, and at Sweetwater, how the Sweetwater system works.
And so we were able to reach 900 students last year coming to COVID. That felt pretty good. And then the water festivals. This is Marana on the picture. We did, let's see, looks like close to 1,500 students at the 3 water festivals. Come join us March 29th at Crossroads Park. Check it out. We'll be there again for the Marana Festival this year. And then a really exciting thing that came out of Arizona Project West work with a NOAA grant and watershed management group has been really increased interest in school rain gardens. And so we are real excited about that. So looking into the 2022-23 school year, I think that's a piece that we will continue to do more and more. We won't, at this point, we don't have funds to do installations outside of the Tucson Water Service area where they're funding those. And so something we all have to talk about, but right now I think we'll just focus on kind of expanding out into more rural areas so we can better serve Vail and Salrita, 3 Points themselves. We had one of the gifts of remote programming was that we had, teachers in 3 Points calling us up and saying, hey, can we have a virtual program? And so I'd like to continue those relationships. And so we're looking at $45,000 for the next contract year as we keep moving out of COVID. And so far our calendar is fuller, so I can say that I think we're in better shape than we were a year ago.
Thank you.
Which, by the way, if anybody knows a college-age student who needs a part-time gig, I need help.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go out in the classroom, so if you know anybody, send them our way.
Yeah, also true.
Comments, questions, Tim?
Comment.
Yeah.
Right.
Chairman Little,
Yes, sir.
I had a couple of questions.
Ask away.
Huh? Is that you, Kyle, or are you speaking for somebody else? Or what's going on?
It's Mike, I think.
Oh, Mike, sorry. I hate hybrid meetings. Worse than a Zoom meeting is a hybrid meeting. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, can't get onto the video for some reason, but anyway, it's Holly, right?
It's me, yes, Mike.
Okay. On the academy with the CAP,
Yes.
is that just a 1 year or is it for both years?
Sorry, you're asking about, the CAP Academy actually is a Phoenix AMA project.
Okay, because I saw it in the scope though.
Oh, sorry, it's 2 days. We only do 1 year. I'm not sure what your question is. This scope is for 1 year and we put 2 days of professional development into the scope.
But that's focusing on the CAP though, right?
Oh yeah, so the ROV workshop has a CAP component talking about how we can use remote technologies to maintain the CAP. Yes.
Okay, I was just wondering if you had approached them for any funding.
We have CAP. I'll tell everyone, will not fund salaries, but they do fund teacher stipends. So that's how we approach them for funding.
Okay,
Yes. Thanks for asking.
thank you.
Other questions, comments, Tim?
Thank you. So, a comment followed by a question.
Sure.
So, with the increasing impacts of climate change, which water is a key component of the impact of climate change, my comment is our mayor and council, which supports Project WET, and I know this is, we get funding from multiple places.
Yep.
Has an interest in making sure that climate change in the water space is included in the educational components.
Mhm.
And maybe even if the programming and the educational components of Project WEC needed to be expanded, they have an interest in making sure that the climate space is well represented and that education is reaching our students. So my question is, how is climate change currently handled? And what would you see as potential future of incorporating climate change robustly in the project wet curriculum?
Ooh, great question. I'm going to let Josh talk a little bit about our work with CTE in a second. I'll give you a minute to think about that part. And then I want to talk about our green stormwater infrastructure work, which is really about climate resiliency. So the kind of curricular arc is, let's start with heat. Okay, where is it hottest on our school campus? If you walked onto an elementary or middle school or any school in Arizona, there is some spot where kids hang out and wait for the bus or eat lunch, where there is a huge rooftop, a bare gravel lot, and just like heat reflecting everywhere, right? And they all know that instinctively. You say, where's it hot? And they go to that spot. And so we talk about solving these multiple problems, right? It's hot. Our storms are getting more unpredictable and more extreme. So we've got flooding, heat, and then we want to have a beautiful place to be where we're supporting natural native habitat. And so that's kind of where we start with that curricular arc, and then we move over to, okay, well, what's one solution? One solution is green stormwater infrastructure, and then we give students an experience of actually getting to take action, which we know is the first step toward feeling like you can affect a problem. One of our biggest problems with middle schoolers right now is actually climate anxiety. Like, I know we're talking globally about teenagers and anxiety post-pandemic, but climate anxiety is like really real for them. So giving students kind of a powerful place to have action, take action, and feel like they're moving forward is a big part of that curriculum. And then your point is well taken, Tim. I think every piece of curriculum that we write has a story about the historical changes in our water table or the historical changes in our systems. And so climate change is a natural part of our water story. And as kids are hearing questions, hearing the news and hearing their parents talk about water, those questions are surfacing even more and challenging us to push a little farther. And then Josh, talk about CT.
Sure. So I used to be a high school science teacher, and I actually ran a career and technical education program for agriculture, and we did a lot with sustainability, climate change, water, et cetera. So we at Project WET, I'm starting to go and approach career and technical education programs with climate resiliency and climate oriented curriculum units, projects, etc. That are also career building and career pathway building. So for instance, as an example, if you're in a career and technical education program at a high school and you're in an agriculture program, one of the certifications that you're going to leave with is from the Arizona Landscape Contractors Association. I currently am now building for the Arizona Landscape Contractors Association a green stormwater 3.5 continuing credit hours or whatever. So now that's actually going to be in their certification process. So we are building out career pathways within educational programs that are completely based on climate resiliency. It's interesting. I was just reading, my son's in 4th grade, and he invented a project for his students, for his friends, about what does the world look like in the future. And I read last night probably about 20 different ones, and at least half of them were about, I imagine, a world where the water's clean, where the air is clean. So there is a lot of anxiety. The issue is, as an educator, I don't want to go scare a fourth grader, right? I don't want to go into a middle school and have them think the world is ending, right? I want to go in with solutions. I want to go in with the right type of thing, because it's very, very easy to get a kid to go into a really dark place. You start talking about the realities, the real science behind climate change. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we're framing all of our discussions in solutions, right? So You know, if you are a fourth grader, get one of those, right? We'll start there. You know, if you're a middle schooler, okay, let's go change elevators. If you're a high schooler, let's talk robotics. Let's talk green stormwater infrastructure. Let's talk, you know, how soil microbes react after you do rainwater. Let's talk about water quality, et cetera, so that we can start to funnel kids into climate-related positions. So that's really where we're trying to go in terms of how we're really trying to get to climate. Our primary funder in Tucson, Tucson Water, has told us they have 20% of their workforce retiring and they have no pipeline for replacement of town, right? And I'm not talking about like, you know, the customer service agent. I'm talking about the hydrologist at Sharp or the engineer that's running the acoustic balls down the pipes, figuring out where the leaks are, right? Those are the types of people that we're trying to build with the CTE programs in high schools, around specifically around.
Thanks for asking that question so we could share the stuff we're most excited about.
And I thought,
You answered my question.
Yeah.
I appreciate it because there's a lot of that I didn't know, so.
Yeah, no, and just, I was just thinking that there's not a real solid breakdown on the new scope. And it's a little more general so that we're able to kind of follow those educational trends, but it's sort of 10 field programs with fourth graders, 10 classroom programs with fourth graders, 10 WSIs, because we know those are missing water, 10 field experiences for middle schoolers, 3 high school classroom days, which is, you know, 24 classes or whatever. And then 2 days in teacher PD. So that's what the new scope looks like, but same stuff, slightly new twist.
Is sort of what you've alluded to, written someplace, maybe not in this scope, but someplace where.
We have to write it after this meeting. That's kind of how that goes. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I have a
Yes,
couple questions. So I noticed Marana, Tucson, I think it was Smith or Sahuarita. Is that, it seems like that's been the same. Is that a matter of resources for your group or is
It
that
is,
just-
it's resources. So every water festival has to have school district buy-in, volunteers and funding. And so, I think last year we said, oh, could we do a Vail festival? There weren't extra funds in ADWR, in the WMAP funds for that year. We could talk about whether that's possible. We are shifting, some of our Tucson water funds, wanted to be able to do more green stormwater infrastructure work. And so we did, it's sort of cheaper per student to have a water festival and to bring them to Sweetwater Wetlands, if you can kind of picture that. So we're moving towards 5 Tucson, mostly TUSD, but some Sunnyside, other districts, water festivals and fewer Sweetwater programs. That's something this group could decide. We could say we're going to fund another water festival in a rural area and not fund Sweetwater for folks outside of those service areas. So that's something you all could decide if you want to.
The other, well, I guess 2 more questions.
Yeah.
One would be when you showed the picture of the changing out the aerator on the faucets. So do you actually give them aerators to put in?
We do, yep. They go home with a flow rate bag and an aerator. We mess around with different systems, like you need a parent permission slip before you get the aerator or you don't, and how many just go to the landfill versus how many get on the air. We mess around with all kinds of systems around that, but more or less they get an aerator and a flow rate bag. And ideally, in the perfect system, everybody does their homework and they go home and they measure their flow rate and they interview their family about how often that faucet is on. There's a worksheet to help calculate out, you know, duration and, you know, how many minutes that faucet's on a day and how many days we use it and all of those things that they can calculate or project.
yeah, so the students do the math and then we have a portal on our website where they can actually enter in and say, all right, according to what I get, this is going to save 100 gallons a week at my house.
So do you guys total that all up at the end of the?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you had it. It was
That was
1 point
That's the
something
one-
million.
that was the number,
Yeah,
okay.
That was the number.
And then my last question was just on the sheet here. It says that there's remaining funding of 22,000.
Yeah, it's just the way, a function of how ADWR and the university interface. We build once at the middle of the year and once at the end, and the end is November.
Okay, so that's gonna be used, it's
Yeah.
already, okay.
Realistically, that money's probably already been spent.
Yeah, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
A good question.
I mean, if anybody's interested in kind of like the educational pedagogy behind why we're doing what we're doing, but we can walk you through that because there's a whole mess of research that, can support what we're doing in terms of our educational efforts, but I don't want to take everybody's time.
Mike, did you have a question, Pat?
More of a comment. In my understanding, it has been the individual water user that has saved us. If you look at the chart, you'll see that the water use has gone down. They have started going up. But programs like this, where we carry the thought that we have to save water to the children, is so important. I completely support what you're doing.
Thanks, Pat. I had a moment today where I was like, this situation is so urgent. Really, should we spend money on education? But we actually can't afford not to. So, we gotta think 20 years down the line when those kids are sitting in your chairs. So,
Other comments or questions?
If there is a need in our area that isn't being met.
No, I was just
I
more
think we need to
curious
let
why,
them know we should do it.
why some of the bigger school districts in the area weren't participating.
yeah, well, and the other part, because, the AMA funding goes to folks who are not part of the Tucson Water funds us well, and so we use those funds for that. And so we kind of push folks, schools who are not, the funding that this pot of money goes to is those that are not in the bigger school districts. It's just how geographically works out.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate showing what new districts, new children we could include.
Yeah.
I know money is,
So I think kind of next would be Vail.
I don't think we do a better thing.
Yeah.
This is a very high priority item in my mind.
Sure.
And if I had details that X school district hasn't participated, but if we had money here, you go to they might, or at least we could contact me.
So that's a question maybe for Melissa is if, say, Vail School District or is, Vail is probably, I'm trying to think of what other school districts are in the AMA or, Boba Keevery wanted to do a water festival and we came back in the spring and said, we need, a water festival is $7,000, so it's not huge amount. If we came back in the spring, we could do that as a separate part of that, like a separate IDA or a separate contract. Is that a feasible option?
Yeah, you just.
Yes. Okay, cool. We'll think about that.
So we'll
Thank
see
you.
you back.
Maybe you'll see me in the spring. We'll come back. But your point is well taken, that we have to start with the other side, which is, do they want to do it? And do we have the teacher buy-in and can we come up with the volunteers? That was the pieces.
Is the pleasure of the committee to vote on this project or wait until we've seen and talked to people? Okay.
And Madam Chair, if I could just reiterate here that I think it's $49,000 that we have in the WMAP fund, and this project is asking for 45, and the next one is asking for 6. So it might be worthwhile letting the other project present also, and then coming back and having the discussion about funding on if you decide to fund the second project, how those numbers get split up.
Well, I kind of did, except that I'm now confused about what money is available and what money is spent on the account.
So if I understood, Kyle, what you said, we've got 49 available and we've got requests for over 50.
Correct.
Yes. But we're gonna have 68 coming in at the end of, in 3 more months.
At the end of our fiscal year.
Oh.
Yeah, that's sort of why I asked the question about whether
Now
it's CAP.
So we can divvy up the money and then maybe come back for. Got it. Okay.
So we're gonna hear all,
I think we are.
I agree.
Okay. We're gonna hear from our next presenters from
Are you ready for us? Good morning, council members, staff. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Paula Randolph. I'm the Associate Director for the Babbitt Center of Land and Water Policy. We're located in Phoenix, and with me is Mark Holden. He's the Principal Planner at Pima County. If I could have the next slide, please. There it is. It's hiding. I just want to explain a bit about who the Babbitt Center is. We're probably new to many of you. We are part of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. The Lincoln Institute is a private nonprofit operating foundation. We are located in Phoenix, the Babbitt Center is, and we are part of the Lincoln Institute. Our goal is to approach issues as you see up there. I'm not going to read for you, but tools and best practices are an area that we feel very strongly about. And we have a very super program that we'd like to share with you, and that's why Mark is here. So if we could look at the next slide. We have a program called Arizona Growing Water Smart. We are the funder of the program, and the Sonoran Institute that is located here in Tucson is the actual implementer of the program. They run it. It's a heavily facilitated program. And I'd like to take a portion of our time today to actually show you a little video. Council members were given it in advance, but I'd like the members to see the actual process that we go through that explains how Growing Water Smart works. So without further ado, if the team will roll. Got it. That was the worry.
So did we get this video in advance?
Yes, we sent it out with the meeting materials.
You'll get to see it right now, and you've got it. Hey.
The sound may not work.
It was working, because the earlier.
Okay.
It's not going to make sense if we don't have sound.
It's been hit or miss with our board, getting video to sound.
Historically, water and land use planning have happened in isolation. Development requests will come into a land planning agency and they'll take it to the water provider and say, we expect this many people in this type of development pattern, and the water provider will figure out how to deliver that water. But without more water to go around, that's just not the case anymore. We can't just go find more water.
We have a shortage. We've over-appropriated the Colorado River Basin, which has clearly exceeded its carrying capacity. We have to find another way to manage our water.
No one thinks about when the community is built out, is there enough water supply for the viability, the economic viability of that community? There needs to be a direct link between the intensity of a land use and the water supplies associated with that.
Local governments have land use authority. They have the power to determine where and how their community grows. And we want them to grow water smart.
The Growing Water Smart workshops are a great opportunity for communities to come together, bring their key staff, sit down in a retreat type environment and think about what their water challenges are and how they're going to address them.
We've had to tear down silos. Our build-out population is projected to be 500 to 700,000. We've identified a deficit of approximately 45,000 to 49,000 acre feet. We've come to the Growing Water Smart workshop to learn strategies to offset that demand that we're facing and to learn from other communities that are also participating.
Right now, we're relying almost totally on groundwater. We can't just keep pumping and pumping. We need to recharge the aquifer and use groundwater wisely and conserve as much as we can.
We have a really structured program that is results oriented.
One goal for posted.
It's not sitting there passively. It's 3 days engaged in strategic planning with exceptional facilitators.
What about that water policy, or what kind of policies, and for who, and at what scale?
We have one of our council members, myself, our planner, our head planner, our director, and we have 2 Arizona Water Company employees. And then we also have our economic development director. So it's a good cross-section, good group, I think that can give good input, and hopefully we can come out with some good policy that we can move forward and incorporate into our general plan update.
Our biggest challenge is just the time to sit down and focus. So that was the big benefit being here, is that it literally got us the time to just sit here and talk about this. Otherwise, we just don't have the time to do it.
One of the things that came out, which we hadn't really thought about, was installing 2 meters on a home or business, one for indoor usage and one for outdoor.
Communities can actually measure the cost savings, let alone the water savings, of these efficiency measures.
We're going to start budgeting, so we're going to set up some water budgets, and it'll probably be by land use type.
Teams walk away from the workshop with a 12-month action plan with goals, strategies, next steps.
It doesn't end here. You have a plan of action, so when you get back, there's a document that we've agreed on as a group.
So maybe we bring in the building department as well and get input from them.
When every team leaves, they are given resources, whether it be technical assistance or opportunity to apply for financial assistance. And I think that's what's allowed the Growing Water Smart teams to really move forward from ideas to action.
We went back and forth quite a bit, but we're kind of proud of where we ended up. In order to protect our quality of life,
Communities that were part of our first workshop are becoming leaders that others can ask for advice and for feedback.
thank you.
We have had communities of all shapes and sizes come, counties, smaller towns, bigger cities.
20-some communities that represent collectively about half the population of Colorado have now come to this workshop.
We'd love to see Growing Water Smart all over the West. Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Wyoming, Montana, California, everybody is having these issues. To be able to grow a program that large requires both financial as well as human resources. There's always more desire and need than we have capacity for. It's exciting how well we've done and where we're headed, but there's more to do.
Water is so critical here in Arizona that, we've got to do something, and we want to do it before we run out of water.
Well, I hope that explains the product that we have developed and pay for. But today, we have a participant who went through Growing Water Smart, who is now looking for additional assistance. And so that is the reason why we're here today. We can go to the next slide when you all are ready, and thank you for finding the sound. We know that water scarcity, just listening today, we live it every day. Everybody in this room is concerned about why it's important. And we are really looking at the linkages between land and water. They are critical and oftentimes not looked at. We find that on a regular basis. So with that, if you go to the next slide. This is where my colleague, Mark Holden, comes in. Mark is with the Pima County Planning Department. He's the principal planner there, and they are in need of some additional funds to work on a project that is frankly in dire need. And so without trying to speak on his behalf, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and have him explain what they are proposing these funds would be for. So Mark, if you would.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, Chair Little, members of the council. I'm Mark Holden. I'm a principal planner with Pima County Development Services. As Paula said, Pima County Development Services went through the Arizona Growing Water Smart program that was sponsored by both the Babbitt Center and Sonoran Institute. Has anyone else in here ever been through that program? Raise your hand.
Only with you.
Raise your hand. So Wally actually participated in the program with us, and it was really good to have his insight from the perspective of a water provider. One of the things we keep hearing about is the differences between indoor water use and outdoor water use. I think it's interesting that I think over the years we've seen the indoor water use decreased because of increased efficiency with different types of faucets and things. Outdoor water use, hard to say. But these are examples of two projects that were done by our flood control district. They were actually done in central Tucson. These were abandoned parcels that were tax delinquent. They had abandoned structures on them. They're located probably Fort Lowell and Country Club. The flood control district came in, removed the structures, put in basically rainwater harvesting, where they could have, where what was needed was like one large facility. What they've done is kind of decentralized it, but through that, they've used native vegetation. They've also created little pocket parks in the neighborhoods. They've created like an urban park space, and they've used native vegetation. So this is kind of what we want to do in development services. So with outdoor water use, we currently have in our zoning code a landscape section that has some fairly good goals and objectives. So there's specifying arid landscapes, helping to utilize stormwater, reduce runoff, specifying the use of native plant materials, encouraging the use of effluent, and this will be to minimize noise, air pollution, water pollution, screen and buffer incompatible uses, preserve property values, provide shade, conserve energy, reduce soil erosion, things like that. The issue is where this code sort of where the rubber hits the road is right here. And this is our landscape design manual that I have in my hand. This manual was created probably mid-1980s and has undergone very few changes since then. The main thing that the manual does is provides for buffer yards between incompatible or uses of different intensity. And in general, the greater the intensity of the uses, the wider the buffer yard, the more plants that go in. We've seen buffer yards, we've seen landscaping that's been overplanted, that just basically, plus the irrigation systems, there's requirements for drip irrigation that doesn't get maintained. One of my favorite parts of this manual is the prohibited plant list. This is from 1984. Prohibited plants, this could take a while. Bermuda grass, mulberry tree, olive tree. So, one of the things that we decided in our Growing Water Smart program was sort of low-hanging fruit. One of the projects we wanted to work on was to update the landscape requirements, both in our code and especially the manual. What we want to see more of is probably more protection and enhancement of existing habitat, but also increased stormwater and rainwater harvesting. We want to kind of streamline the landscape requirements too, so that, right now, there's like 8 different types of buffer yard. I think we want to streamline that, make it a little bit easier to work with. We want to create livable urban spaces and urban habitat areas, and we want to reduce urban heat island effect in parking lots. So we did get a grant from Sonoran Institute for $20,000. We have contacted McGann and Associates, which is a local planning and landscape architect firm, and had some initial discussions with them about updating a plan. This is some work that they've done before. So we need a little bit of additional funding to supplement what we got from the Sonoran Institute. We hope to have this done, both the change in the code and in our manual, probably by next May. So basically, we're looking for some additional funding to get this updated and improved. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about our project.
Questions from the council?
Just one question, Madam Chair. I mean, just right off the bat, I'm a little confused, and please don't misunderstand my question because I like your project. Where's Pima County in all this? That's my question.
So I'm with Pima County.
Exactly. Why isn't your boss saying, yes, this needs to be done, let's do it?
We've actually, so this was done by a landscape architect that we had on staff back in the mid-80s. Our staff has basically been reduced over the years. We don't have a landscape architect on staff and at Development Services. We've actually, I have tried to work with the U of A landscape architecture program to see if this is like a student project or a master's project that somebody wanted to work on. I've tried that for about 3 years. A couple people were interested. COVID happened. We couldn't get somebody to physically come in the office. So we've looked at a couple different ways to get it done. And again, through the Growing Water Smart, we kind of identified this as both something that's been needed to be done for quite a few years, but also something that can be done with a little bit of extra funding. So.
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question a different way. How much funding is Pima County government putting into this project?
So we've got, so it's mainly going to be staff time working on the project. I've already put time in working on the grant proposal for Sonoran Institute and for this project. We do have somebody who does landscape review. So we've got about 2 or 3 of our staff who will go through, we'll work with McGann and Associates to kind of, do the proofing of the text and the manual they put together. We might we'll need to do some changes to our zoning code. It could be we might end up having to do the drafting of those actual changes and then take them to the commission and the board. So it'll be mostly staff time. We'll probably also spend some staff time to go out and one of the things that McGann is going to do is do some outreach with local landscape firms and developers to once we get the changes made in the landscape code and the manual, we'll probably go back in about a year and check in with those same people and say, how's this working? Are you getting the plants in? Does the rainwater harvesting seem to be working? We'll probably also pick a few projects at random and kind of follow them through to completion, and that'll be staff time working on that. So McGann will be working in a vacuum on this. We're going to be meeting with them regularly, looking at the changes they make and probably helping them with the outreach too.
So it'll be an in-kind contribution.
Yes. Correct.
Confused, who we use this?
So the landscape manual is generally used for commercial developments. So when there's parking lots that are put in, it's also used for subdivisions. And the developments can be, the subdivisions, it's generally common areas and buffer yards. And then with commercial developments, everything from large developments to small developments, but also parking lots and other developed areas. We would like to try and expand it to make it more of a how-to guide for the existing homeowner when somebody comes in and wants to say, well, how do I change my landscape out? What kind of plants should I use? How do I do water harvesting? Part of the issue there is there's already a lot of information here in the community with groups like Watershed Management, what Project WET is doing. But the first part, I think, is just to get the landscape manual redone and updated for the commercial developments and for subdivisions. And I should say too, on like roadways, roadside,
Right ways.
you know, rights of way.
Yeah.
So if I'm a developer, I could use that. But which?
You would you would actually be required to, these are design requirements, they're design standards that are required right now. You know, if you're a developer and you're coming in, and you've got your high density subdivision, but you're near, single family, large lot residential, you're required to put in a buffer yard of a certain width with a certain number of plants in it. If that buffer yard, if it's like, well, I want to make a narrower buffer yard, you tend to have to pile more plants in, it gets overplanted. So these are actually, they're going to be design standards that are required by developers, either commercial developers or residential developers.
The roadways that people county put in the road, they have to follow that.
Correct.
Another example is Metro Water District. Metro Water District doesn't have any of this authority. So developers that are going to develop in Metro Water Service area, they go to Pima County's Development Services. And this is where all of that is laid out in their building permit in conjunction with us saying, yes, we will serve you. But all of this landscaping and all of the, the buffer yards and all of that is not Metro Water District like it is with Tucson Water. They have the city's development services. So Pima County and Metro Water District work in conjunction with each other, and all of that landscaping and all of those requirements on the developer come from the building permit that they go through with Pima County. We just serve the water.
As an obstinate developer, this will be an impediment for you because they will follow what this says and they will be allowed by this code document to do what they want to if it meets this, what's in here right now. And that is a problem because outdoor water use is so, in terms of water use.
See how things have changed or not.
Comments or questions?
Yes, another question for Paula might be, I'm assuming you're familiar with the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart program. And wondering if it's called their watershed grants, if that fits into that category of what you're doing at all?
We've not looked at them specifically. The goal that Babbitt Center has and Lincoln Institute is really to fund the programs. But we have found that our participants in the programs really struggle with the technical assistance. They don't have the wherewithal to implement this typically great plan that they've created with us during our 3-day workshop. And so what we've done is recognize that we need to help. So that's why I'm here today. We helped with the application here, and we will look for other sources of revenue that go directly to the participants who are needing additional funds to implement their project, so that there's lots of money out there. It's a question of, are the applications being met? So there are requirements that you all put in place. Are they contracts? Are they grants? All of that is work that typically the municipalities or the counties don't have the wherewithal to do. So we're there to try and help that and find that money source as well, not for ourselves, but for the communities that are doing the work.
And I mean, just as a comment, it says, the Cooperative Watershed Management Program brings together local stakeholders to collaboratively develop sustainable water solutions, which sounds to me like what you're doing.
Absolutely.
There was 10 groups that were awarded 170, an average of 170,000 to do that. It lists them. There are also, different groups were awarded 3.8 million to 21 groups, so an average of 181,000. And I guess the other thing that caught my eye, looking through this as I watched your video a few days ago, was with the Bureau of Reclamation, it also says the Cooperative Watershed Management Program also includes second phase of funding where groups can apply to receive funding for projects identified through their planning efforts.
We will absolutely are working on that. We've not taken a great deal of federal fund money Lincoln Institute or the Babbitt Center. And as you all are probably well more aware than we are, the requirements to take federal money. And what we find is many of the rural communities that we deal with, because this is not just an Arizona project, we deal throughout the Colorado River Basin.
Right, I think that's where the Bureau of Reclamation,
Right.
the western states.
Right, exactly.
That I was talking about.
Exactly.
That's all those projects.
They're not, most of these communities being rural don't have the bandwidth to jump the federal hoop to get the money. They're not ready to spend the money. So we want to try and help find ways so that they're ready to spend. So that's part of our reason to begin the process to be approved to be an applier for funds from the Fed.
And I misspoke, we received a grant of $10,000 from Sonoran Institute for technical assistance.
That makes more sense with the numbers that were.
Yes, thank you. I just want to correct, but that's what it was. Yeah.
So you've done similar projects elsewhere?
Yes.
What has been the outcome?
Outcome is actually really good. The program has been in place for a number of years, but the state of Colorado has a different funding mechanism. And so most of what we've seen in terms of longevity so that we could track and measure has been in Colorado, not in Arizona, but we use the, good. I'm glad you're shaking your head. That's okay.
It's the same type of water, H2O. So
Amen. Amen.
I'm not worried about where the water is, I'm worried about how.
Well, the communities are not here in Arizona.
You know, it has
They've been very successful.
Could
with
you
this
say now
implementation.
that you go through, I'm assuming it's other cities or counties, I don't know, in Colorado, that this has resulted in a change in what you see happening in subdivisions and then streets and
It has.
as you go through?
It's not just necessarily folks are applying for funding for landscape manual changes. Let me use Casa Grande as an example. We did give them technical assistance. They did a social media campaign to build awareness of water use. And that's how they use their funds.
This is a new concept to me to say, if we can get to the folks who write the guides, and can enforce them when they come in to get their permit, that's a whole new field. You know, new idea to me. But not to a lot of other folks. But I just wonder if, has that been done?
I see.
And what effect it has? Are we a pioneer?
Absolutely, it has been done before in Colorado, and where it's been successful is in a typical developer world, they're building on the edges, right? We all know that. They end up working with smaller communities that are around the larger communities who historically have had our light on their landscape development standards. And consequently, builders actually take advantage of that. And our goal is to help communities and have done that actually in along the Front Range in the northern part of the state to help some of those veteran communities get their code up so that they can keep the water use down.
Has
So,
the
yes.
development community accepted it? Or do they go to the authority who has to approve it? Assume like a commission or council or board or something, right?
I've lived in the developer world, so I'm going to speak as that person. They're always going to complain that there is never going to be a developer that comes and says, oh, this is sweet, this is perfect, good. They are going to work to get the best deal they can. These are what stand. And so it's important for us.
That would be the next step.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Acceptance of this project.
And we have helped with development revisions to landscape code with other communities, and it has been to the community's benefit. I mean, those communities ultimately need water too.
They'll come ask the wife whether yes or no. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right?
Comment, first of all, I totally believe that this is a good investment to make, because the best impact we can have is before the thing is built. This is a path toward that. I encourage want you to quantify that in kind. And I know it's not insignificant, but I would quantify it so that it's understood how much Pima County is investing in this, even though it's not in dollars, it's in kind, staff contribution. If you have quantified it already, I'm curious what the number is, but if you haven't.
I don't have.
I can't give it to you off the top of your head, but we did have that discussion, Tim, because it's going to take an extensive amount of work because county has to approve this. And so you have all the shepherding and the outreach programs that Pima County folks are going to have to do. I mean, we were talking about what a FTE is at Pima County.
Yeah, we'll have to, besides doing the changes to the zoning code and not just the landscape, there are other sections of the code that have specialized landscape, the buffer overlay zone, which is the area around most of the public preserves in Pima County. We'll have to draft those changes to the zoning code. We'll have to do a staff report to sort of tell the commission and the board how the code is changing, how the landscape manual is changing. Then we'll have to take it to the commission. Someone's going to have to present and again, take it to the board, possibly talk to the supervisors about it before we go. So there'll be a lot of staff involvement throughout.
I venture to guess there's hundreds of man hours in this entire process, but we will quantify it for you. Happy to do that, provide it to staff.
I think that'd be helpful. And
Got
then, additional question, is the administrator, have you received direction from the county administrator and or from the board to go down to make this ask?
I don't think so. Well, actually, we have approved it. No, I take that back. Yes, we have. We went through there's the Grants and Innovation Department. We had to submit a form to them. And then it did in fact go through the county administrator and to the board for their approval. So yes, it did.
They agree on it.
Thank you.
So the county administrator has to sign off on the contract.
And my question was, they know the intent that you're doing this work and they're going to.
Yeah, and the other thing is the District 1 supervisor, Rex Scott, and his staff participated in the Growing Water Smart program.
We require policymakers to be a part of the program.
We actually had supervisor and his staff in attendance for the whole, well, Supervisor Scott wasn't there the whole time, but his staff was there the whole time.
Maybe for staff, roughly round figure 7,000, is that what you're requesting? And the other one was for 4085, 52, so we're over budget by 2.
What happens if we go over budget?
What do we do both?
Nothing, right?
That's officially going. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's okay.
All right, we'll just tweak the fee again.
Exactly. Let's go to a dollar. I possible solution that we have a pot of money, I can't keep straight, and that we deduct what this ask is. It's a one-time ask. And the Project Wet folks have already said they may come back with a different plan. They might update or change or adapt 6 months down the line. That's an ongoing thing that we have tended to fund some every year. I think we fund this project in full right now, and the balance of our pot of money to Project Wet for now and come back later. That's not a loan. I don't have to make them.
Can I ask the staff, is that within the regulations, rules that we have to abide by?
Who's gonna tell me
What?
no?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get a phone call from the director and assistant director saying, what the hell are you doing?
No, not at all. You have that $49,226 to use. So if you were to go take that route, Arizona Project Wet would receive $42,286, and then you would do the full funding of $6,940.
So is it an option to ask Project Wet, because they get paid right now in 6-month increments, that we just fund them every 6 months, and is that a better way to do it? I don't know.
I would rather not come back every 6 months and talk.
Really?
about
Oh,
this.
I mean,
I
I'd
mean,
like to know.
I'm happy
county, I support this. I think we should do it. So let's do that and we'll come back and ask for water festival money in the spring.
Yeah, and then you'll.
What
tell us.
else?
And whatever additional thoughts you had.
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
you might be coming back.
Yeah.
So.
So moved.
Whatever that was.
We're gonna
To be
just.
perfectly clear, that we fund this up to 69,
6940.
6940. This project, and the remainder to wet, project wet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Uh,
Mike, what do you think?
Yes, I would support that, and that was the other reason I had asked about whether or not CAP was funding part of the task one of Project WIP. Was about the shortfall.
Understanding CAP support project.
Cat, does support Project Wet. It's a separate thing.
But we could do, we're doing.
Yeah.
Something.
Us too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, the more the merrier. I'm not, don't mean to be in conflict, I'm just trying to make sure that my understanding is correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Just like.
That's an aye.
You, unanimous decision, just put it on the record.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
that's not what the recording says, but, okay.
can I ask an additional question?
Of course.
Which would be, I mean, when I read through what the Bureau of Reclamation's got out there, and I see the potential, I know where you're going, I've attended some similar seminars. I know well several water, companies in this area. I just wonder if there's an opportunity there that says, let's go, why don't, the Babbitt Center go ahead and apply for some of these fundings if it truly does fit like it seems to read? And would the GUAC chair members be willing to endorse their receiving that? And that would be with number one, the purpose of holding those seminars for municipalities across the Tucson AMA, and number two, the second part there, to get the funding from the Bureau to complete those projects.
We would heartily love to work with you.
I mean, is that fair?
Is that a motion?
What am I missing here?
I think we need a motion to
I think,
discuss.
yeah, I need to hear the motion. The Babbitt Center, the Lincoln Center, the Sonoran Institute, the Pima County, the GUAC, the CWAC, CAP. I need to have it real clear.
So I guess for a motion, it would be that if the Babbitt Center, Lincoln Institute, and Sonoran Institute apply for this watershed grant to help others in the Tucson AMA,
We would support.
we would be willing to provide a letter of support for that grant.
Second that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All, Mike, what do you think?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Those applications require a letter of support.
Yeah.
Exactly, and the more the merrier, yeah.
And we can do that.
I think what we said is, don't forget it. There's others out there in the AMA, please start talking to them.
We would love to talk to them.
Yeah, our support.
Awesome. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Okay. Did our action that we're required to act on. We're now going to go to item number 8, overdraft and safe deals in the Tucson AMA. Landon.
Madam Chair, this is Kyle. We're coming up on 11. I know we have the hearing scheduled at 11. If it pleases the council, I would recommend maybe leaving this and the next one for the next meeting. Amanda's presentation in particular is a fairly long one and intended to have a fairly lively discussion.
Okay, fair enough. When will that be? Do you think a few months? 4
Yeah.
months? After the first of the year?
After the first of the year, probably be late winter, early spring of next year.
And what about the statewide planning updates?
I have heard from John that that is about 15 minutes with questions, so we can also leave that one for the next meeting if that's okay.
But my question, Madam Chair, would be, we have John here today.
He's got to be here for the hearing here coming up.
He's the hearing officer coming up.
So is
Are you
that,
okay with holding it over?
Sure.
I'm sure you love coming down here to see us.
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, sir.
If there is a document produced, could we see it? I mean, I don't need to discuss it and put it outside, but this type of information, keep us informed would be very helpful.
That's a good point that I was going to make later, that it's really helpful to us. And I apologize that I did not see the video. I mean, I'll go back and look on my computer, but I didn't see it. But it's really helpful not to have stuff here when we meet, to have stuff ahead of time so that we can do our homework.
The text or what?
Yeah, we can send out the slides. I know, John, you speak a little bit more through the slides, so if you want to write something up, we can send that out to you.
But just so we have it ahead of time and do the presentation.
Some draft.
Yeah, and all the presentations are on our website before every meeting. So, but I can potentially send the big
That's
presentation out
good,
to you.
because I can't find half the stuff on page.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, members of the council, I also will, the supply and demand assessment is still very much in the early stages.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest at the end that I'm happy to provide the updates at subsequent meetings.
Great.
As the process kind of goes.
Nothing else, you can give a short paragraph and say, this is what we're going to do, and mark it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so, if someone asks me, they'll say, oh, what happened on that? And I can say, oops, they're worried about it.
I'm happy.
All right, we're going to move right along. Call to the council. Mike, Pat, Doug,
Nothing.
anybody? Okay, call to the public. Okay, we're out of here. Or we're not really out of here.
Let's go to the next.